So specifically in the last few months, there's been rumors about how Apple is ending and how the iPhone 15 was the last iPhone to ever come out. And Apple is not a company that's without controversy. There's been a ton of controversies on and off. Every single year there's a new thing. We had the battery gate issue, we had the bend gate issue, and now just recently with the iPhone 15, we had the durability issues. But this time the rumors may actually be true. And when I say that Apple is ending, I really don't mean that the company is closing down, but I mean that the core values that the company was built on would most likely be gone. Now you have to admit that Apple does things differently. For example, Apple was the only company that had its own in-house built port, which was the Lightning port. No other phone manufacturer in the world had a Lightning port connection. They all had micro USB, and then they later on shifted to USB-C. But even when every single company was using USB-C, Apple was still using Lightning cable. Until right now, with the introduction of the iPhone 15, which now finally Apple decided to come with the USB-C. Now the keyword here is decided, because Apple really didn't make that choice on their own. In fact, they were actually made and forced to do that by a governing body, which was the European Commission. Since 2021, the European Commission has been trying to come up with a law where all phone manufacturers are using one common type of cable. They've been trying to gather everyone up under one roof and make them come out with a single cable that would charge all of their devices, electronics, tablets. But let's be honest, the European Commission was actually targeting Apple because they were the only ones that were not following these steps. Every single other phone manufacturer out there had USB-C apart from Apple. And in order to play ball and avoid paying heavy fines, because companies like to keep their money, Apple decided now this time to go ahead and create the iPhone 15 with the USB-C just before the 2024 deadline. And that's where we are right now. Now, all that is good. Yes, the iPhone 15 now has USB-C. This was something that a lot of people wanted. This was something that consumers actually wanted. But the European Union, now realizing that they were able to make one of the biggest technology companies in the world bend to their rules, it looks like they're now getting greedy and they're wanting more. Now, this may make me sound like an Apple fanboy, and yes, I maybe am an Apple fanboy. I like Apple products. Most of my ecosystem is based off of Apple. But this is really, I'm as unbiased as I can be, because this is simply just being done to hurt Apple. Now recently, one of the commissioners of the European Union, Thierry Breton, met with Tim Cook, and after meeting him, he publicly called Apple out by saying that the next job for Apple and other big tech under the DMA, which is the Digital Markets Act, is to open up its gates to competitions. In simple words, the European Union is now asking Apple to open up its gates and its closed-loop software to its rivals. Now, this may not seem like a big problem, and this means that the main three things that Apple refers to as gatekeepers would be available to everyone, which is Safari, the Apple Store, and iOS, and including every other operating system that Apple has had. It would mean that you may see a hybrid between Android and Apple. And that means opening up its walls and then just being publicly available to any phone manufacturer that wants to use iOS as their operating system on any phone. Now again, is this a bad thing? Maybe not. But if we actually look at the meaning of why the European is doing this, it kind of gets dark. Now, Apple has always stood on one major thing, which is privacy. That's one of the main core values that the company was founded on. And again, unlike the USB-C, USB-C was something that people wanted. This was something that was in demand. There was a lot of hype about it. People were actually complaining that every single phone out there has USB-C apart from the iPhone. So this was something that people demanded. But unlike that, the open software, the open loop software where everyone can just come in, swoop in, and use Apple's ecosystem is not something that is being demanded by its consumers, by me, by you, by people who actually buy iPhones. And in all honesty, this is nothing else but simply just anti-Apple. The reason why people buy iPhones is not because they want a hybrid or an Android phone that has an Apple logo behind it, right? That's not why people buy iPhones. The reason why people buy iPhones is because they're unique, they're different. They have a very different ecosystem, a very unique combination of both hardware and software that just makes their phones different. The European Union's argument over here is that it will give consumers a choice, but I think that's really not it, because people actually have a choice right now. You can choose to buy Android, you can choose to buy the freedom that Android gives you, or you can choose to buy Apple's business plan and the way that they prioritize privacy, or you can even choose to buy both. You have the option to buy both and everything in between that comes in that. So if both systems are going to end up being the same, what is the difference? What is the European Union actually trying to achieve out of this? What is their benefit out of this? I mean, if the European Union came out today with a new law saying that Android had to be closed and they had to close down their software, would you be okay with that? Would now phone manufacturers have to go and now start to develop their own softwares? And would Google be the only company that has the rights to Android? I mean, would you be okay with that? Right now, Apple is probably one of the only companies that truly has an ecosystem where it secures users' data. I mean, there's no other company like it. And recently they came out with a specific lockdown mode, which is probably the most extreme example of phone privacy. So why would Apple want to get rid of one of the core pillars that it actually stands for? There's one more thing as well. So whenever Apple introduces a new feature and whenever we have an introduction of a new phone or a new product or a new technology that Apple has come out with, even though it's already available in the market, even though Android may already have that feature, Apple talks about it in a way as if they're the only ones doing it, like no one else has actually done it. But what they try to achieve by doing that is talk to you about it and make you feel like they're the company that are making these changes specifically for you as a consumer. Now, the big question over here is, if Apple allows the European Union to manipulate and allow them to make changes, where is the line? Where do we draw the line? Because at one point, if Apple keeps on bending to the European Union's rules, or any governing body for that matter that can just swoop in and just remove one of the company's core values, then who is safe? I mean, if today this is being done with Apple, this can be done with another company out there. So is that really fair? And again, the main question is, if we keep on changing, or if the European Union allows this to happen and manipulates Apple into making them change their core values and the way that their phones and the company and their products were built, at what point do you lose Apple? At what point do you actually have a completely different product that's not really Apple anymore, and it's just really nothing more than a name? I think Apple really needs to put their foot down here, and they really need to draw a line as to what they will do and what they will not do. Because again, it's a very unfair advantage that a governing body can just come in and ask a company to change the complete policy of what they stand for and what they were built upon. Again, this is nothing more than just being anti-Apple. There's really no one is gaining anything from this. No one is going to be benefiting from anything that they're asking for. But again, let me know what you guys think about this. I think Apple should simply just stop selling iPhones in all 27 European countries. And again, I'm not against the European Union. I'm not against any European country. But if Apple has to save themselves or allow themselves to then become a company that really is not Apple, but is something that they were forced to be, then what is the difference? What is Android? What is Apple? What are other companies? What is the difference? And what will iPhones be bought for? Let me know what your thoughts are on this, and let me know whether you would like to buy a hybrid Android Apple phone that really is a very different product than what we've ever seen before. But yeah, guys, let me know what your thoughts are about this, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.